Good morning, everyone, and welcome to today's lecture on M.N. Roy. In this lecture, we will be discussing about the socio-political and economic ideas of M.N. Roy, and we will try to understand the significance of his contributions towards the development of humanity. M.N. Roy suggested to bring about some social transformation in the Indian society. Social transformation to him meant raving for some change in the existing social order because of the existing order being so unjust and exploitative. M.N. Roy opposed the class discrimination and he explained about the radical humanism, which is also popularly known as the new humanism or the scientific humanism. We will be studying about this in detail in the coming minutes of this lecture. M.N. Roy was born in 1886. He was a very versatile philosopher. He talked from right from the exploitation to political emancipation, from economic dimensions to social dimensions. He was really versatile. And he was a rationalist who judged everything based on rationality and based on reason. He was an advocate of the individual freedom and kept it above everything in the society. He was one of the extremists who struggled for attaining freedom of this country. He was born in Parganas district of Bengal. His first name was Narendranath Bhattacharya and he completed his education in Calcutta itself. He was a revolutionary by nature. After partition of Bengal in 1905, he actively participated in the freedom struggle for the country. He got arrested at a young age of 14 when he was connected with the Havra conspiracy case. And in 1915, he went to the Indonesia in search for arms and ammunition to fight against the British. He landed in San Francisco in 1915, where he tried to organize the Indian community, including students and revolutionary groups who were working for the national struggle. Roy was attracted to Marxism in a really early stage at his life. He was even the founder of the first Communist Party outside the USSR in Mexico and became the Secretary General of that society. In 1920, he became an advisor to the Bolshevik Party on the colonial questions in Russia. He was also elected as the member of the Central Asiatic Board by the Communist Party. In 1922, Roy organized Indian National Revolutionaries in Berlin and also started a journal named The Vanguard of Indian Independence. He published his book India's Problems and Its Solutions, in which he openly criticized Gandhi's social ideology. Due to some fundamental differences with the Communist Party in USSR, he came back to India and he joined Congress. Now, when he joined Congress, he had this aim in mind that he will revolutionize Congress. He wanted to make some radical changes in the way the Congress worked, but it did not happen. He did not find like minded people in the politics of INC. And thus, he had to leave the party to create his own Radical Democratic Party. In 1944, he founded the Indian Federation of Labour. After independence, he established the Indian Renaissance movement, and in 1952, he was elected as the vice president of International Humanist and the Ethical Association in the Amsterdam, and he died on January 25th, 1954. It is important to know about his life sketch because it will help us understand where he worked, why he worked for certain causes, and how vastly he traveled across the country. Some of the important literary works that he wrote, some of them that we should know about, include India in Transition, The New Orientation, The New Humanism, Reason, Romanticism and Revolution, Science and Superstition, People's Plan, National Government or People's Government, and Our Differences. These are just a few works that I'm naming. There are so many more. Let's look at some of the concepts that M.N. Roy has discussed in detail. The first and the most important concept is the concept of freedom that he has discussed. According to M.N. Roy, the purpose of all the rational human endeavors is to attain freedom. Freedom means progressive disappearance of all the restrictions. Being a liberal and a humanist, Roy advocated for the least amount of interference in the life of an individual. An individual becomes really free when he gets an opportunity to exhibit his capabilities, his capacities. Therefore, freedom is a supreme value which helps human beings develop to the best of their capabilities. He said that the present forms of democracy do not guarantee freedom per se. The real form of freedom is missing in today's regimes. Hence, he rejects the present institutions of democracy and suggests an alternative, that is, the radical democracy. He does talk about some reasonable restrictions on the freedom, but these are just reasonable, just the minimum amount that is required to run the society. In the initial years of his political career, he was a follower of Karl Marx, but later on in his life, he experienced some things and some situations that convinced him that communism cannot provide a solution to individual liberty. So he developed an alternative ideology and it came to be known as the radical humanism. He considered man to be the end in itself and nothing matters much more than man. He says that man is the one who has created the society, the institutions, and the politics, the policies. Everything should revolve around him, and nothing should be above him. According to him, state was created to check the hindrances in the way of growth of a man, and state must ensure equal possibilities for all its citizens to acquire knowledge and growth. A harmonious society, he says, can exist only when we start understanding and believing that every individual is capable of national judgment. Every individual is capable enough to participate in the politics of the country. Let us now look at Roy's views on the political system. Now, freedom of an individual is one of the central themes of Roy's work, as we have just discussed. He has blamed the current institutions for making man feel so helpless and caged. Second, Roy believes in the political decentralization. He believes in organizing a society into smaller and very closely knit groups. Each such group would be an independent and an autonomous unit. He believes this will give man more freedom to take his own decisions. And he opposed the idea of centralization of power as it completely paralyzed the autonomy of a man. And he vouched for the idea of a partyless democracy. He said that political parties, they try to monopolize all the power in their own hands and stand between the government and the people. Thus, they limit people's choices and also try to influence those choices, the limited choices that people already have. He accuses the political parties for being very corrupt because ultimately every political party wants to grab power, and at certain points, they do step their limits and try to become corrupt and use any possible means to grab that power. To set an example, Roy had dissolved his own political party, the Radical Democratic Party that we talked about just before. Roy talks in detail about the conditions in the new social order, the radical democracy. He says in this new structure, individuals will be organized in the people's committees, which will empower them. They will not be isolated. In this new setup, there would be no need to delegate the power, as the power already will belong to the people and will remain in their hands forever. This means that there existed a natural decentralization of power. Political parties would be completely absent in this new setup, in this new radical democracy, and People's Committee at the grassroots level would be responsible for bringing about all the major changes. Governance would be the responsibility of each individual in the society. Democracy has to be made truly participatory, and the voting system in the current form of governments leads to new masters coming to power, he says. The political parties who get majority of votes, they start acting like dictators at some point instead of acting as facilitators for the people. Emin Roy says that the weapon which will help transform this society is education. So the society that Roy talks about, the radical democracy, the new humanism, this will be established only with the help of education. The education that we impart to our youth should help them think rationally and to help them make more conscious decisions while solving the problems they face every day, the problems that they confront in the real life. This education would empower them to build grassroots level democracy and to participate in it. Let's move on and take a view on the economic arrangement and Roy's thoughts on this economic arrangement. He made a very strong argument of not just political democracy, but also economic democracy. He blamed the current economic system that prevailed under capitalism to crush individual choices and individual freedoms. He rather insisted that the industries should be owned and controlled by the people and the poor should not be exploited at all. According to Roy, the capitalistic system of the economy is the most rotten and the most outdated one. This is because the entire means of production are concentrated in the hands of a few capitalists, and these capitalists, they behave like dictators in the market. And rather than understanding what the society actually needs, they produce what they think should be produced and what will give them more profit. So they completely disconcern themselves from the needs of the society and rather focus on their own personal profits. The huge profits that these capitalists earn, they're not even shared with the society. Roy called for replacing the system with a cooperative economy. Now, the point is, how will we achieve this cooperative economy arrangement? What is the blueprint of this kind of an economy? So Roy says that the consumers will work in very close cooperation with the producers. And when there is a close contact between the producer and the consumer, the resources get utilized very properly. The scientific and technological advancements can be fully utilized at this point if we do this. Roy also suggests to have a planning body at the top which will help allocating the national resources responsibly. In such an arrangement, the production of basic need products would be done at a large scale and the exploitation would come to an end. M. N. Roy was not against the concept of private property as long as it doesn't lead to exploitation. That is why he says that the basic industries should be run by the state and not passed on to the private sector. He also assigns the state another role where it should act as a coordinating agency between the public and the private sector. Roy was well versed with the condition of the Indian economy. He knew that industrialization is needed for the advancement of the country. But at the same time, he was also worried that if the machinery is introduced in agricultural sector, it will lead to many peasants and laborers becoming unemployed in this country. Thus, he suggested that states should be the one to decide the level of industrialization to be undertaken in India, and also it should be left up to the state to decide the amount of remuneration and the working conditions that will prevail for the labor in this country. And also the prices of the products should be left up to the government to fix. Now, he suggested to go for a national planning authority consisting experts, the agricultural and the industrial enterprises which are financed by the state will be the collective property of the society. And the entire credit system in the country would be run by the state banks, the state banking system. Private sector would work in the close cooperation and on the principles which are laid down by the state for the private sector. So he made two suggestions by which the purchasing power of the people could be increased, because at that point of time when India was just about to become independent, the biggest problem was the poverty. So Roy suggests some ideas how we can improve the situation. The first is to produce goods and services in bulk and thus at the low cost, so taking advantage of the economies of scale. Secondly, the government should subsidize the goods that are produced to get exported, because the exporters are given some subsidies, it will increase their income. He knew that land was already a very stressed asset in India. Too many Indians were dependent on the limited land. Thus, setting up new industries was the only way to generate some fresh employment in this country. Also, he suggested for a redistribution of the land so that the disparities in the land ownership can be overcome and the distribution of land becomes more rational and more reasonable. He also suggests to fasten the pace of large scale construction programs, including building up of roads, other infrastructural projects like bridges, highways, etc., so that the labor gets some work and they are able to raise their standard of living with the income that they get. Finally, we will be discussing about the idea of new humanism. First of all, what does this mean? In the later years of his life, Roy became very concerned with the identity of a man, and his passion for the individual freedom made him construct a new political model based on humanitarian, rational, and scientific order, which would be ensuring that the real sovereignty is what man achieves in a society. So, to get more clarity on this new political model named the New Humanism, let's look at some of the features of this model as discussed by Roy. So, Roy believes that humanity is passing from a very tough phase. It is almost in crisis. And the basic problem is to guarantee individual freedom against totalitarian and authoritarian regimes. Man should be free in a society from all sorts of chains. And Roy believes that even if these chains are made of gold, they are still chains. So you still should work hard to emancipate yourself, to free yourselves. He should be at the center of all the development and decisions in the modern civilization. Our values and our cultures are going through a crisis, he believes, and we need a new political model like this one, the new humanism, which would be based upon the natural reason. New humanism, according to Roy, would be able to help man solve all his material problems, as it would be based on man's needs and not any religious ideas. New humanism stands for freedom and liberty of a man. It makes man free to do whatever he wants to do and to take his own decisions. This will help every man improve his thought process. It will give every man a chance to think about the things going around him. It will also help develop a sense of justice, fair play, and social responsibility. New humanism also shows some deep confidence in the ability of the man to keep going and working hard. It is a philosophy of positive values. Roy wanted to eliminate all forms of hurdles in the way of progress and development of a man's personality. In his famous speech at the first All India Convention of the Radical Humanists, Roy said that a democratic order must be coordinated with a cooperative reconstruction of economic life. The independent and autonomous local republics must have access to economic resources so that they can solve their economic problems at their own levels with their own intelligent initiatives and cooperative efforts of all the citizens. Thus, he wanted to eliminate the unnecessary contradictions and the unnecessary concentrations of the means of production, which causes hindrances in the development of human beings in true sense. Roy said that he developed the concept of radical humanism because no other political philosophy stressed on an individual's development. Even Marx ignored the individual interest of the man for the interest of the classes and the groups. He also rejected the idea of nationalism as advocated by Congress. He said individual liberty cannot be guaranteed in a parliamentary democracy as the politicians and bureaucrats in this form of government would monopolize all the power for their own benefit. At last, Roy said that man is a very intelligent creature who has some immense reason and rationality within him. He is the creator of the society, institutions, and politics. Thus, he should be kept at the forefront of the society, and society should not impose itself on man. Development should always and always be measured in terms of how much the humans have developed in the society and not in terms of how much wealth the society has created. Therefore, to bring a new social order, the concept of new humanism, we require a revolution in the intellectual, moral, social, political, and mental spheres. And this revolution can only be brought about through education. Education can bring some political consciousness amongst men and women of this country. That's all that Roy had to say. But at the end, I would like to summarize what we have read and studied in this entire chapter. Roy was, first of all, a founder of completely different school of thought. He's considered to be one of the most learned thinkers of modern India. He always advocated for individual freedom. He was always concerned with the dignity of the man, the freedom of a man. He was a critique of the parliamentary form of system of democracy and the party system. He was also a critique of the capitalistic system of economy. Later, he also criticized Marxism. His concepts of radical democracy and cooperative economy and new humanism still hold a lot of relevance in today's society. With this, we complete this lecture. I hope we were able to understand about most of the concepts that Roy talked about, but this is just the beginning. This was a very brief idea of what Roy had to say. If you're interested, please read some of his works. Thank you so much and all the very best.